Hello and welcome to What's in a Design. This is video 2 of the segment, the chunk, the format. So if you are unaware of what this series format is, every video will be a breakdown of a certain character from any anime. I've got a list of a few different varied ones I think you guys might enjoy. We're going to test the waters with just 5, see how you guys like the idea. If you don't like it, we'll leave it alone, continue doing normal breakdowns as the breakdowns are going to start now again on the channel. Or we are going to continue and you guys eventually will get to suggest characters you think will be interesting to learn a little bit more of. The last time we did this, we did Sakaido, or we did Akito Narasago from ID or id Invaded. This time, guys, we are going to be diving right back into 2014. Before, as always, guys, there will be spoilers ahead for the anime involved. There won't be any manga spoilers on this one. I am indeed Clockwork Dandy Noodles. Please give my channel a little peek over. I've been breaking down anime for a couple of seasons now. Also, you can check out some of my other works. I've done some random gameplays as well. So please go ahead, subscribe if you absolutely like the ideas or want to see what happens as we do the current airing season of anime. Of course, there is a Discord channel for you guys to go ahead and join. You will get a notification whenever a video goes up. I also will be floating around on there, so you can get to chat to me yourself. And I also get to run ideas by you, so if you think an idea is going to work or not, and I get some opinions, so great place to be. Go ahead and check that out. Now guys, grab 5 yen. It is time to make a wish, and we're going to be breaking down this week Yato from Noragami, formerly known as the God of Calamity, or his true name, which was indeed Yaboku. We have also got Yatogami, or Delivery God, or as he is currently known as, which I think I would like this ring a little bit better, is the God of Fortune, which is the title he uses at the end of season 2. So he's got a few different names. I decided to include all of them to have a bit of fun, and we're going to be this week breaking down mainly Yato, but we are going to be referencing Yaboku because there's very big differences in the way the two are presented. So Yaboku is the past, I guess you could call it the younger Yato, but in a minute you're going to understand why it's difficult to talk age about this guy. He's the darker voice actors. Let's jump into the voice actors. For the Japanese voice actor, we have Komiya Hiroshi, and that name may ring a bell, and I'll tell you later in the random comments exactly why. The English is Jason Liebrecht. So let's talk about Yato's height. Last week I made a little joke about how short the character was. This character is getting shorter, although if we were going to run by the little joke going on, Komiya, the voice actor, he also has a habit of playing other short characters, which we'll mention in a little bit. So the height for Yato is 5'8", or 174 centimeters. A little bit shorter than Sakaido last week. Let's now dive into why age on this one is a little bit difficult. Yato is a god. It's really difficult to get an estimate. So as always, if you're wondering how I get my information like this, I cross-reference. And there has been quite a few different, no one really agreeing. He's a god. He's been around because he is a wish. He basically was born as a god of war from a wish. So his actual appearance isn't really reflective of the age, but the age range that we've kind of got him at is 1,000 to 1,200 years. So anywhere between that is roughly how old he is. The only person who actually knows how old he is Yato, and I don't think he's going to be really giving up that information anytime soon. He actually holds the appearance of that of a young man in his early 20s. Let's now talk about those beautiful baby blue eyes, those eyes of his. Let's run through some positives, then hit some negatives. The positives of blue. Blue is a calm colour, which is shown very, very nicely because Yato is often shown as being quite calm under stress. Loyal. He is absolutely loyal to his friends, and we see him affected by Hiyori's kidnapping. Dependable. He's always fulfilling any wish that he undertakes, no matter how odd. Confident. This is shown quite nicely as well. It's shown in how bright his personality is. He's quite extroverted with the personality that he puts on. He's also very, very confident in his belief that he will one day become the best god with the most amount of followers, which is shown when we have the section of him fantasizing over how grand it's going to be, confident enough to approach Hiyori. Persistence. Yato doesn't give up. He never gives up on his belief that he can make humans remember him, and also that he will one day shake off the negative aspects that are associated with him. Duty. Now, duty starts to take us, even though it's technically in positives, it starts to slowly take us into the negative section. He reluctantly fulfills a perceived duty by his father to kill, murder as Yaboku. This duty, this idea of following duty, takes us straight into now the negative aspects of the colour blue. Most of these negatives are associated with the past. The Yato in the current exhibits some of these, but most of the ones here are more related to Yaboku. First things first, let's get the one out of the way which is associated with Yato. That is depression. Picture the idea that he is basically forgotten by the humans. So the humans forget about him, which then causes him over hundreds and hundreds of centuries to become more and more lonely. And he also gets rejected. He's terrified of being rejected because of the fact of his past. He can't shake the fact that he's murdered people. He's also associated as a god of calamity, so people kind of fear being around him or wanting to even acknowledge him. Over the centuries, this does build up, and this eventually would even affect the most toughest of people. So there is a slight sadness within him. That is probably the only one in the negatives here that we can really directly contrast to Yato. Sadness, we see him crying over Ebisu when he dies. And then these last three are kind of more Yaboku, but it is hinted that Yato too can be cold and merciless. Also bear in mind that he does actually take 5 yen to kill off lesser demons. 5 yen is the equivalent of 1p in the UK. It's barely not even 1p, so he's essentially killing for nothing. The last 3 negatives were the cold, lack of emotion, and aloof. Yato is never able to tell his friends his real name, mainly through the fear that they're going to reject him, and this also loops back into those depression roles there. He's almost ashamed and scared. He lives in fear that people are gonna walk away and abandon him. So he's got a few abandonment issues. Yaboku's eyes are often shown glowing, or they are colour popped just to make him colder, make him stand out. They are also very piercing, emulating that cold, merciless Yaboku's nature and the cold, piercing nature of that blade he carries. Yato's eyes are perhaps the most drawn out feature of him. They change into cat's eyes occasionally, so especially when he's being naughty, mischievous, and he's up to no good. Yato's hair is a dark violet. This is, a few people do argue that it's blue. I think it is more a dark violet colour. It is messy about medium length, and at times it is shown to be tieable, so he ties it up into a very short ponytail. When he is Yaboku, the hair is shown to be more wider, a tad longer, and a bit more unkempt, and it's worn again in a short ponytail. However, it is often shown as more just black. So whenever we get the Yaboku segments, it's quite dark. There's also a lot of shadow around, so picking out colours is really difficult. This kind of hints at the idea that his past was darker. There was barely any colour in his life. He looks back on those times because they're dark. He also does look back on regret and disdain that he doesn't really want to remember those periods. So whenever you get those segments, there's often a filter thrown over those images. There's also no colour in his past, so there's nothing which really stands out. So all the images, all of his colour, all the colour palette for Yaboku, as we're about to go into, it's all just shades. It's just a lot of shades. Like, he was darker, times were darker. The messy appearance of his hair, generally this kind of shows off that more carefree nature. The positives of the colour violet. We've got innocence. Yato at times can be very childlike. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it depends, but he does have a nice little innocent side to him. Spiritual, well, he is a god. Creativity, he is very creative in the methods he takes to try getting believers. Sensitivity, he is picked on throughout the first season for having sweaty hands, which apparently he's shown to be quite sensitive of. He also cries over Ebisu when he dies, and he also shows honest tears when Hiyori presents him with the little shrine that she makes him, and he just cries. That scene still being one of the most precious moments in Noragami, just seeing Yato crying with actual realistic tears of happiness. Considerate. He does help people out, so he is trying to help people out. And he also releases Mayu from the service to him, as he doesn't want to keep her indebted to him doing something that she doesn't want to do. So he is considerate of how she feels, and he allows her to be released from service and go elsewhere and do whatever makes her happy. The negatives of violet. Violet can be quite a fragile, timid colour. It can also be a sign of extravagance and arrogance. Again, we spoke about the overconfidence at times, where he can sometimes fixate about being the most beloved gods of all. The extravagance, there is that image of Yato dressed as a king. Note that is also one of his fantasies, but again, it's quite an extravagant fantasy he has. Hypersensitivity, well, he is born to a father who abused him, has always been made to feel inferior. He's grown up around abuse for many, many years, so he's also very sensitive with that, and the fact that he's very easily forgotten. The art style, let's move into the art style. So the design for Yato is very, very smooth. There are no sharp defining features, no jagged jawlines, no nothing like that. The eyes are quite smooth as well. The eyes, as we keep saying, are the most prominent feature. He is a very expressive character with many, many sides to his personality, so he flip-flops between many different ranges of personalities at times: sad, cheeky, mischievous, carefree in a way he can actually dip into them. The soft design as well leaves quite a nice childlike aspect to him. There isn't any harsh shading on him. However, when we flip-flop back to Yaboku, there is always shadow. There is always dark shadow with Yaboku because the past is dark. The character is colder, who, with no doubt, was definitely a mystery to people around him. He was just this person who killed people, so they didn't really want to get to know this person. So he simply just followed the orders of his father. His darker art, it makes it harder to pinpoint anything, reflecting the idea that it was a dark period in his life, which, to be fair, has probably blended all together. Those hundreds of years of killing of people have just probably blended together, become a bit of a blur to him. Flip-flopping back to Yato, and Yato is usually seen with a smile on his face, very expressive. He's generally very, very happy, or he feels absolutely rubbish and he'll go and sit in a bin, which is one of my favourite memes of all time. His design really does reflect in his sincerity, so it's quite a basic design overall. There's no draping elements in his design. It reflects the idea that he's not living a frivolous life right now, so he's kind of mooching off what he can get, and we see him mooching off Hiyuri. A bit of a counterbalance to the point earlier of him being slightly extravagant. Only his dreams are extravagant. Colour palette. Yato has violet, blue, black and white. It's still a very dark colour palette, but unlike Yaboku, we have a slight bright colour coming in the form of his scarf. There is a light blue, and that shows that there is a small amount of hope. A hope for him one day becoming a god, no longer caged by the association with the idea of him being calamity. Yaboku has black, grey, dark blue. These are just shades. There is actually no colours here whatsoever. That reflects the idea that the past is really dark, the future is brighter. Yaboku's worldview as well will be very, very bleak. He is nothing more than a tool. He's basically a shadow of a person. He doesn't even get to be an individual. Clothing. Yato often wears that very iconic dark tracksuit with the... people debate it to be navy. I think it's black. It's got that light blue stripe running down the arms and the legs. There is indeed a yellow crown motif on the hoodie. I have recently bought Yato's hoodie, so I was able to go and look at mine and go, yeah, that's what it looks like. The crown motif is a sign of hope. The crown is also a symbol we see in his fantasies where he puts the crown on and he's a king. It's a goal, it's what he wants to end up with, so it's nice to have that on his little tracksuit. Also as well, tracksuits are often associated with people who want to go into fitness, and they generally have a goal or a motivation trying to help them lose weight or just to try to keep a fitter lifestyle. The whole look in general is quite casual, and also the clothes he's wearing are practical more than anything else. They serve a purpose. It's very easy to move around in, and I think it helps him quite nicely blend into the people, even though they can't really see him. The tatty bandana, the blue scarf that we mentioned earlier, representing hope, reliability, truth and innocence, doubling down on more of those positive character traits that Yato definitely exhibits. The scarf as well allows him to hide behind it, so sometimes he'll use it to kind of block out his mouth, or he'll hide behind it and in some of the shots. This could be seen as the idea of trying to keep a secret or hiding, but I like the idea as well that it is because he's hiding his true name. So Yato is pretty honest with his friends. He does basically tell them most things about himself, but he does hide his true name to try and disassociate with his past. So I like the idea of him having something to hide behind on his outfit itself. And he wears a white shirt underneath his tracksuit. He also wears brown knee-length boots which are, again, good for walking, but they are the one aspect of him that stands out. So with tracksuits, generally I'd expect him to be wearing trainers of some sort. This perhaps hints that not everything is what it seems with this getup, so not everything is in place. There's something a little bit out. Overall, the whole outfit that he wears is very, very practical. It looks comfy. You definitely know that Yato is very comfy as he's moving around, jumping around. And it also just allows for his very active, outgoing nature. Yaboku, on the other hand, wears a very, very dark black-blue kimono, which is debated again, and it has a dark grey obi tie, but this essentially just reflects the time period, helps us educate that this is in the past, and the fact that Yaboku is a very dark character, as we've mentioned before. There isn't a single colour on here. Black is a shade, black is also an absence of colour, so there's no colour. Apart from when the eyes are colour plotted, there is only just that blue which stands out, and those are very, very piercing. His design is quite nice, but it is very simple. Yaboku isn't really a person, he's just a tool. So there's no complexness about him, he's just doing as he's told. Let's now go to my favourite section, the random facts. And I've got some really fun random facts this time. So the scarf is named Fluffy Fluff, which is the English term, or Fwa by Yato. Yaboku basically contains the kanji for night and divination. Yato is also a very good tailor. He has a loom, so he can make his own fabrics, and he's seen quite a few times in the anime and the series in general as to be able to give people clothing. 8.2 on Mal, so it's definitely rocked up into the 8s, which I generally, anything on Mal, if it hits an 8, it's definitely mostly considered absolutely amazing and great. It's very, very rare that series get 9. I think very few animes have 10 on Mal. It is based upon the manga by Adachitoka. Season 3 is rumoured to be in production, however there's been no release date, no details surrounding Season 3, and it's quite controversial. A few people saying it's not going on, people saying it is. If it is in production, it will most likely be delayed by the current world situation anyway. Yato spends and wastes a lot of the money that he has, despite the fact that he needs it. Yato is also depicted as a cat, which has been done purposefully. The title, Noragami, aka the Stray God, cats are also known as being strays. They stray from their homes quite a lot. They're an animal which will walk away from its home, then come back eventually. Where cats are also very mischievous, playful, and they can scratch and bite, sometimes completely unprovoked, which shows that Yato has that more unpredictable nature. There are many people who believe that the current Yato still can be cold and merciless. He's still got those undertones there. We do see them in the fight where he tries to take back Hiyuri. I think it's more he's been backed into a corner, so he's not exactly going to be more unpredictable. He has to be properly triggered to go there. Yato's Japanese voice actor, as we mentioned before, is indeed Levi Ackerman from Attack on Titan, an even shorter character than Yato himself. And this often enough leads into some absolutely hilarious classic crossover art. I've always liked the one with like Yato going over the wall going, "Hey Erin, do you want a wish for 5 yen?" I love that. Can you just imagine how different a show Attack on Titan would have been if Yato was there and he grants Erin's wish to kill all the Titans? That would have been very interesting. Let's go into our finals. So our final comments. Yato's design might be pretty simple. However, the colour choices that have been chosen, they say a lot about him. So his eyes are always the most prominent feature that stands out. And this lays into the fact that the eyes really are the window to the soul, and they don't lie. Yato is a very expressive character. Like, he's he goes through all the emotions. He's very honest with his feelings. To be fair, he's probably one of those characters, if they were real, you could probably read their expression off their face. He has a wide range of emotions, and that even leads into those slightly darker tendencies as well. Yato's appearance does not reflect his age, so we've got to bear that in mind, but it does show that more childlike traits of his. He has got often over-the-top behaviour. Sometimes he comes across as quite hyper. A few people believe that is more like the idea of you check your happy friends because they're normally hiding how they actually feel. It is a possibility that he is using some of his behaviours to hide the fact that he has a depression, a sadness, that regret, that hypersensitivity. So he's using those more bubbly characteristics to cover it up. Yaboku, it might be a very, very plain design, but it does reflect the fact that he is nothing more than his father's tool. He hasn't even been seen as a human or an individual. So he is often seen in shadows, and there is no light surrounding him at all, because there's nothing memorable for him during that period of life. It's just a period of life that, if anything, he wants to forget, and he also wants to abandon his name. So he wants to disassociate from who he was in the past. There are tiny, small, subtle details with this character, things like the scarf, which shows us that there is a hope for Yato's future. He desires change, he wants to have a brighter future. The colour palette mainly is shades, it's not bright. That leans into the sad fact that it might not be bright and it might just be shadows, but it's a colour palette that is very easily forgotten, like the gods are to the humans. So that is my breakdown for Yato. We've gone into quite some interesting details. Yato is one of my favourite characters. He's a character I've absolutely adored since I first watched Noragami, and that was over 7 years ago now, I think. Yeah, 7 years ago. And he's always a design that you do sometimes kind of forget occasionally, but when someone says, oh yeah, Noragami, the design is pretty memorable when you reconjure it back up again. So I like the fact that the artists have definitely gone into a lot of thought. They've put a lot of thought into the design for Yato, and I love it. I think Noragami is fantastic, and if there is a season 3 out there and it eventually hits, I am definitely going to be breaking it down on this channel. I've had a great deal of fun researching this one. These videos are great fun. I do 2 days worth of research. They are hilariously fun. I learn things. I also get to delve into things and then shock myself when I found out that hypersensitivity or depression with blue, little bits and pieces where you go, oh, I didn't realise that, and that's quite clever. There's a lot of little moments with these kind of breakdowns in these videos I do where everything is more clever than you think it is. Sometimes tiny little details like that scarf being tatty and him not wanting to get rid of it because it's a relic and it's quite nice of his and doesn't want to throw it out. There's a lot of little nice details that people just put into their designs, which is why this segment, what's in a design, actually exists. Make sure you guys let me know that you enjoy this format, this general kind of idea. Giving it a run. I've got 5 characters picked out for now. I will release the initial 5, and then if it does well, I would then do a few more, and then I will start taking on suggestions from the Discord first, and then people can go, hey, I like this character, can you tell me a bit more about them via breakdown? So that is how What's in a Design is going to run. I really hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. By the time this video airs, I'm probably going to be breaking down a few weeks of anime by this point, so I hope you're enjoying the current season of anime. Make sure you guys are taking care. Have a good one, guys. Bye bye.